Live from the Salvation Army National Headquarters, this is the Fight for Good podcast.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fight for Good podcast. I'm your host, Lieutenant Colonel Tim Foley, and I'm coming to you from the basement of my house. That is where my remote recording location is for now and for the next several weeks, I think. But joining me, not in my basement physically, but digitally, our editorial director, Mr. Jeff McDonald.
Greetings from our spare bedroom in Fairfax County, Virginia, part of the network.
Part of the network. And, I've noticed speaking about network, like all the network news anchors are all kind of doing this remote sort of thing as well. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
Yes. You see, we're all set up, but it's working. It's amazing, really.
So we're no longer in our temporary studios in our producer Elizabeth's office, but Elizabeth is joining us. Good morning.
Greetings from my dining room table.
And things are well for you over there?
Super swell. Love and life.
Jeff, do you think Elizabeth never loves life? I just have a hard time imagining.
I think we want to bottle it and make it available for all of us because, it's great to have that beatific vision all the time. And it rubs off on us. Thank you.
Beatific. There you are again with the incredible words. I like that. Beatific, the word of the day. Well, we're glad you're joining us. And today in this podcast, we're going to be discussing our very special issue of the War Cry that is out now, and that is the 2020 Easter War Cry issue. Jeff, we were able to put that issue together and get it out before all of this COVID-19 crisis hit. What did it take to get what does it take to get the Easter War Cry issue out to our readers?
We begin that special issue 6 months actually before distribution, knowing that we do want to get it in the hands of Salvation Army units, etc., for use during those programs that lead up to Easter that they're conducting, whether it be outreach or services. In any of the services they provide, it's a good tool for their ministry outlets. Of course, this year is quite different. But at the same time, during this time of crisis, the general, in his article, of course, points out the power of the resurrection and how we are to follow that and live in it. And certainly that message has particular relevance during this time when the Army's responding so diligently to the coronavirus outbreak.
Usually at this time of the year, Salvation Army units are doing their community cares ministry, their outreaches. It used to be known as League of Mercy. And I remember as a Corps officer going to many convalescent and rest homes this time of year. And I know many of those places are off limits for visitation. But we hope that our listeners, especially if they're Corps officers, if there's ways that you can get the magazine to the rest homes and have their staff distribute them. We do design the War Cry with our shut-ins in mind.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and we're hopeful that it can be used in the many diverse ways the Army's responding to this current mobilization response to the outbreak, the pandemic. Whether it be part of food baskets or handed out at watering stations and shelters, etc. It can just give a little insight to people who are in need of good news at this time of year.
Hey, podcast listeners, we have a special announcement to make. We are going digital with the War Cry, starting with the Easter War Cry. Right, Mr. McDonald?
Oh, most definitely. We're very excited about this relaunch of our digital version of the war cry. We look really forward to pushing that out and letting people, making people aware of that.
I thought it was interesting because we had a letter to the editor that came in uh, via our circulation department, and Bethany had mentioned and passed it on to you yesterday that somebody was really hoping that we would have a digital version of the war cry because of the coronavirus issue, that they couldn't actually get the hard copy, and you were able to instantly answer that.
Yes, yeah, we were very pleased that the interest was there, and we look forward to serving people in that way as just another outlet in this communication universe that we are populating, including print, social media, etc.
And we are not stopping the print side of things. That is still gonna go out, and you and I know, and those of us that are involved in the publishing business, we know that print is not dead. That actually people still enjoy getting a physical copy of a magazine or books, as well as ebooks and audiobooks and all of that. So this is just another expression of how we're going to get the ministry of the war cry out to our readership.
Mm. People do equate it with the advent of TV. They're thinking that radio would disappear, but there are two different channels of communication that people can avail themselves of, and we are looking forward to continuing to ramp up our digital presence.
Jeff, turning back to the war cry issue for Easter, there's a couple of interesting articles there that maybe you want to highlight.
Well, certainly the general's message is important. It's a strong message to salvationists and those of faith to really live out the good news of the gospel. It's a great encouragement. The general is such a personable man, and that comes through in his writing as well as his online presence. So we really appreciate that. We do have a really strong art on the cover of the actual resurrection scene. Um, and we feature Greg Olson, the illustrator, in our center spread, along with a hymn from the Salvation Army hymn book. You happen to, there's a good article by you, Colonel, in this, which is certainly relevant today, entitled Fake News. Could you just tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I mean, obviously, fake news has been one of these terms that's been bantered around the last couple of years, and we have to remind people we are media. I mean, we are the publication side of the Salvation Army in America, and the things that we're talking about in our magazine is not fake. It's not make believe, and I think particular this article kind of resonates pretty strongly, emphasizing the fact that the resurrection of Jesus Christ is not some kind of make-believe fairy tale religious wannabe sort of story. And the resurrection, the story of the resurrection has been attacked over the decades, over the centuries. And Lee Strobel talks in his book, The Case for Christ, how he, as an atheist and cynic and as a journalist, went on to do a sincere study of the resurrection. And after intense research and things that he did with kind of an open mind, he came to the conclusion of the truth of the resurrection and the truth of the gospel message. And I highly recommend that as a great read, The Case for Christ. So I think I was just kind of getting to the gist there of, don't just kind of cast this aside. And it's interesting to me also the timing of that, because I think a lot of people now are thinking about their own lives. I mean, the scripture is very clear, and we know it's appointed for us once to die, then the judgment. And, life has an ending. We never know how our lives are going to end, but we also know when our lives end, there is hope. There is more to this. There's got to be more to this when you think about it, and when you really start to ponder it. So we hope people will find the hope of hope in the truth of the resurrection. And I think that was kind of the gist of what I was striking at or hoping for in that article.
Another couple of good articles in this issue include one by Commissioner Sharon Hudson on the women of the resurrection story, and how critical they were to Jesus' whole ministry and how they supported him. And that's, kind of highlights the Army's view on women in ministry, that women are equal in ministry, and they play a vital role in it. We also have a really strong article on the Salvation Army's Echelon group, which is made up of millennial leaders in society who are coming alongside the Army and supporting the Army in its mission. And it's almost a rebirth for the Army and it's very exciting to see young people chipping in and identifying with the Army's mission and toward the common good.
We're standing on a foundation of one of the oldest publications still in America, the War Cry, and we're standing on the foundation of officers, soldiers, and employees that go back decades and over a century with this through all kinds of calamities, through wars, through disasters, through a pandemic. We will be featuring in the May issue a little bit of the history of the Salvation Army during the Spanish flu pandemic in 1919. We're still going to be here, and we're still pushing out articles that we find relevant, and we hope our readers and our listeners will do what they can to promote the War Cry on your own social media pages as well. One last thing before we kind of wrap this up, I was just curious to just talking, if both of you don't mind just sharing personally a little bit, how you're doing at home. How are you adjusting to life during this? I don't want to say lockdown, but here in Virginia, we're under a stay-at-home mandate in the DC and Maryland area as well. Elizabeth, how are you adjusting to all of this?
I think I'm doing good. Admittedly, I have cabin fever, so it's really hard for me just to stay inside all the time. But I'm picking up new hobbies. I'm doing macrame now, which is cool, and I'm playing virtual Uno with friends. So, there's the good and the bad, but I'm making do.
I worry about you because I know our listeners may not know this. Can I reveal this one little thing about you?
Yes.
You are like an incredible fan of the TV show Survivor.
Yes.
Did they complete the whole season? What's the scoop on that?
Okay. So currently airing is season 40, Winners at War. And this was actually filmed last spring. So this full season that we're currently watching is in fact complete. Admittedly, the live reunion show, which typically starts at the beginning of May, is TBD because that's live. However, they actually had to halt production on what's going to be happening in the fall. So seasons 41 and then 42 typically filmed during this time. So those are on hold. But the current season is basically complete.
I keep thinking about that.
I do too.
Because, with a connection with my son who used to do, he's a SAG actor and used to do all this kind of stuff. This is a really busy time of year for the entertainment industry. Yeah. It's when they're filming a lot of stuff, and that's all shut down. So enjoy your Tiger King episodes that you have right now. You might want to consider doing some new hobbies like macrame. Or model railroading, which I'm doing a little bit more. Jeff, what's it like in the McDonald household right now?
Well, it's a lot of engagement online. It's funny, you see those pictures of the world and all the airline flights that go back and forth in a given day before the pandemic. I feel like we're all part of the little points of light in that vast map. So we're communicating with our family regularly online and carrying their concerns and burdens because they're affected by this virus outbreak, and we're keeping them in prayer. We're focusing on prayer. We're focusing on reading. I love to get outside. My way of dealing with anxiety or stress is to exercise and to enjoy nature, and I just love being outside and going for walks, doing a little gardening, just beholding God's creative presence in the world. So those are a few things. I'm not cooking though. The microwave is getting worn out.
Well, I married a gal who knows how to cook from scratch. I married a farm gal, so we're eating pretty good right now. I mean, she's taking amazing things with just simple dishes, and two of my adult kids are living with me, and they both they've been recently furloughed from their jobs, so we're kind of hanging out. And one of the rituals that we've done is that we've agreed that we'll all stop what we're doing and come together and have dinner and just kind of talk and laugh and spend a little bit of time, and also staying in touch with my officer daughter, Lieutenant Laura Fine, who's an officer assigned to the Salem Croc Center and out in Oregon. And she's got her wonderful, lovely son, Callum, who is just a joy, high energy, and the amazing technology of FaceTime. So, you just kind of set your sights on little things in life. And I think all of us it would do us well to make sure that we're paying attention to other people. Even though the social distancing things, we're hoping that's going to work and it's going to turn the tide on all of this. But let's remember that we're all human beings. Look people in the eye when you have the opportunity, and thank God for everybody that comes across your path.
Yeah, and there are little things you can do. We're preparing dinner for a woman we know who has cancer. We're making it a point to give blood. I know people have that urge to look for outlets to serve in this time. So those are a few things that we're doing.
One last thing I want to bring up is that we have a survey still going on, the warcry.org articles/survey. You can go online and take our survey. Jeff, we haven't talked about how we're going to reveal the results of that survey, but maybe that's something for us to consider.
Yeah, that's right. We're really anxious, looking forward to get people's feedback. And I think in the podcast with Major Davis the other day, she pointed out that the trend in communication is interactivity, and we look forward to interacting with our audiences more and more. Surveys are one good way to do it.
So we have some upcoming podcasts that we want to make you available. We want to make available to you and to your knowledge. I just mentioned we're trying to interview the national commander every week. He's very active on social media and the media in general. The Salvation Army across the nation is doing a variety of different things, so we're grateful for that. We also have one of our feature writers, Major Lisa Davis. We've done a podcast with her recently that we're going to be putting together and we'll be putting up, talking a little bit about her ministry there in the Central Territory. Also, we've done an interview with co-author of a book called Building Love Together in Blended Families. We think that will be a very interesting listen for you by author Ron Deal. There is a little bit of a strain right now as we're spending a lot of time together in our family situations. And so we hope that will be a very helpful one. Well, Elizabeth and Jeff, we're the governor of Virginia has encouraged us to stay home till sometime in June.
Oh boy!
And we're recording this on April Fool's Day, so I don't know when I'll get a chance to see you lovely people in person again. But thank you for all that you're doing, and we're grateful for our entire publications and program team at National Headquarters for what they're doing. Well, that's going to end this episode of the Fight for Good podcast. Be sure to subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts. And don't forget to follow the War Cry and Peer Magazine on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. We'll draw your attention that now you will be able to read the War Cry on our app and at thewarcry.org at the same time that the hard copy comes to your local Salvation Army unit. So on behalf of all of us at National Headquarters, we sincerely hope and pray that you're staying safe, that you're following the guidelines that your local authorities are issuing, that you're practicing social distancing, but that you're keeping yourself sane and on the good path as well. We encourage you to pray each day, to read God's word, and we hope that some of the articles and things that we're posting online and that we're putting in the print are helpful to you in your journey and walk with the Lord. Please take care of yourself, take care of others, be kind and be gracious. And until we meet and we give another listen, this has been the Fight for Good podcast. Bye for now.
Subscribe to Fight for Good wherever you listen to podcasts.